Alright everybody, welcome to another edition of In Between Days. We're going to be chatting chowder about the weekly promo video for next week, Days of Our Lives, as well as Wednesday's episode. There was no episode this week on Thursday or Friday. A lot of people a little bit upset about that. It's because of tennis, but you got to remember that that helps the network keep the shows on the air, advertising money, all that good stuff. And honestly, for the last 40 years, there's been tennis over the summer, and Days of Our Lives gets interrupted, so we should all be used to it now. But without further ado, by the way, my name is Jason. I've been watching Days since before I was even born, as a matter of fact. And we've got a whole bunch of stuff to get into. As I mentioned, we're going to be talking about the promo video for next week, but first we're going to be starting where we left off. If you missed any of my previous videos, you can go check them out in the archives, but we're starting today with chatting chowder about Wednesday's episode of Days of Our Lives, so we're going to get right into it now. Lucas wants the magic back with Sami. That's kind of where we left off. Lucas tells Sami he knows that she's in love with him and that EJ is in the past, and of course they have what's getting into quite an honest conversation about things, but then EJ shows up, and then we're going to get a little bit into that in just a minute. Xander goes to visit Dr. Snyder after overhearing Gwen talking to him on the phone, and then Xander realizes that's the person who is manipulating her and blackmailing her into being a drug mule for him. So Xander goes down to the hospital and he basically lays into Dr. Snyder and says, "You'd better stop messing with my buddy Jack's daughter Gwen." And we'll see what comes out of that, because Dr. Snyder was not too pleased about it, but he's in a lot of hot water. And I have my theories about that, because we know from the summer preview, summer promo video, the big promo video for all of the summer that we talked about in the archives, we know that somebody's going to end up in the lake. There's going to be a body in the lake. Could that be Dr. Snyder who ends up in the lake, and then we get a summer murder mystery? I'm saying yes, but that's just mere speculation on my part. Also on Wednesday, Nicole Walker Brady, actually. You'll see why in a minute. Nicole almost email confesses to Eric about what she has done with Xander, which is that one night stand in the Salem hotel. She writes a letter on her computer. She almost sends it to Eric, who is still in the Congo somewhere. And then Mr. Mayor, Abe Carver, comes in and has a little bit of a chat with Nicole. And she decides not to send that email for now. But we'll see how things pan out. Sami is still hot on her trail, as we talked about in previous videos in the archives. She knows that receipt that Nicole produced for the Salem hotel was a phony receipt, and she's definitely onto things and determined to expose Nicole and what she has done. Lucas, by the way, I'm just remembering this now, did basically accuse Sami of projecting, since she's basically in a very similar situation and has cheated on EJ with Lucas, and they have a little humorous back and forth about that. Also on Wednesday's episode, Chanel finds sketchy, sneaky blueprints that don't make sense in her mother's apartment. By the way, she lives in 227. I don't know if everybody caught that, but that's the number on her door. That's a throwback to the old series, obviously, that she was in, 227. And yeah, Chanel's looking at the blueprints that Paulina has been working on and proposing for the Horton Town Square, which is obviously a sacred place in Salem, and it looks more and more like her devious plan is to bulldoze the whole thing and recreate it in her own vision. So that's not too cool. We can't have anything happen to the Horton Town Square. We already lost Salem Place into the abyss, but the Horton Town Square with the big plaque of Tom and Alice, commemorative plaque. My goodness, her own grandchild is related to Tom and Alice, so how in the heck can she just bulldoze over all that if that is indeed her intention? Plus her own daughter Chanel has plans to open a bakery, as we discussed, in the Horton Town Square, so how can she be up to all this devious behavior and not feel bad about it? So what's going to happen there, we don't know. Now we're going to get into the promo video released for the week, so if you really don't like any type of spoilers, these are not spoilers. This is a promo video released by the show, but if you don't like that kind of thing, you can dip out a little bit early, and I won't be entirely offended, but for the rest of us who only got 3 episodes this week and need some more material to digest, there is the promo video to digest, and that's what we're going to be doing right now. So the first shot of the promo video for next week is EJ Demira, the new EJ Demira, saying, "It's good to be back." "It's good to be back" is a line straight out of, a famous line straight out of his father Stefano Demira's playbook. It's funny though, because when he said "it's good to be back" in the video, the first thing that I thought is, bro, we've never seen you before, because it is, after all, a different actor. It's no longer going to be James Scott. We talked about that as well in the archives. A brand new EJ. The character EJ, by the way, was originally born in 1997, but because of soap opera rapid aging syndrome, he's a lot older now. He returned in the early 2000s, I think, maybe mid-2000s. He returned as this grown-up version of EJ Demira, and one thing led to another. He ended up getting involved in Sami, and we can't cover their entire story right here and right now, but maybe at some point we'll do a little bit of a EJ Demira primer. All I'm going to tell you now is he was shot and killed by Clyde Weston and his men, and then he was found in 2018 in the Warehouse of Wonder, where a lot of people who were presumed to be dead were actually not dead. They were rather undead, and that's when they found Vivian Alamain and Jack and a host of others who had thought to be dead and long gone. Ava Vitale, I believe, ended up being in that warehouse as well. So after all these years, we learned in 2018 that EJ wasn't actually dead, but then he vanished off screen. He went to rehab in Rome with Sami, who is also off screen, and usually, I was going to say usually she's making Hallmark movies, but that's really the actress. In any case, Sami's back right now. They've got a new EJ. This is going to get interesting. In the promo video, we see EJ questions Sami about what happened between them. About what happened between Sami and Lucas. EJ is questioning her about that, and we see him reuniting with Tony, one of his brothers, half brothers if you want to get technical, and another one of his half brothers, Chad. He reunites with Chad as well, so that's all going to be interesting. More Demiras on the show again. I think we needed more Demiras, especially real Demiras like Tony. It's good to see Tony is back in some capacity. I wonder what's going to happen with Tony and Chad, and now EJ back in the mix. So lots going on at Demira Mansion. The last thing we see is Lucas is expecting Sami to call it off with EJ, and he asks her if that's in fact what she did, but it doesn't quite go down like that, as we see a scene of Sami in bed with her husband, EJ, and so, like sands through the hourglass, so were the days of our lives. It looks like we've got another love triangle going on. And don't forget, Johnny Demira is also coming back to town, as we found out in the big summer promo video, and he is the twin of Allie, but they are not, I was about to say they're not brother and sister. They are brother and sister, but you have to remember that Allie's parents are Lucas and Sami, and Johnny's parents are EJ and Sami. So they are in fact twins, but they have different fathers, and this is all gonna be a very interesting love triangle as Johnny's back in town. They do have another sibling, Will, who is off canvas, and Sydney as well. And we all know how complicated Sydney's history is, but we haven't seen her on screen in a long time, and the last time she was on screen, she was just a child, but that doesn't mean in Soap Opera Land that she won't turn up a lot older at some point, and she definitely is going to have some naturally built-in beef with Nicole, so they could bring Sydney in at any time to make things even more interesting in terms of what's going on with Sami and Lucas and EJ, and what's going on with Sami and Nicole and Eric and all beyond that. So it's going to be interesting, if nothing else, and I will see you guys next time. Remember to subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell, and I will definitely see you all next time. Thank you so much for listening, and if you like what you hear, spread the word. And this has been your In Between Days Talk. Thank you for sticking around with me and chatting.